And we're back. Mwahaha. Evil laughter. Sorry. I'm not evil, I think. Maybe I'm not? I don't know. So I've received a couple of complaints about the format here. So we're going to try and do a little bit better here. The first and most obvious thing is we don't have any music playing. I'm curious what you guys think of this. That's up to you, but basically what I want is your guys' thoughts. I do want feedback on this. So we're just going to have no music playing, which means whenever I go quiet, it'll just be like this. Make sense? So let me know what you think. Now, I need music playing because I will go insane without music. But you don't have to hear it. There we go. Ah, music. Wonder how I'll play Mega Man music that way. And you don't have to hear that. Yes, yes, Mega Man. I have no idea, Magistrate. I have to look it up. I usually have here. Look, listen. There's music playing. See? All right. Second thing, I'm going to try to answer questions directly in chat. No promises on this. The whole reason I have chat on screen is so I don't have to do that. All right. So this episode. I admit I like this episode, even though it is a very basic episode. This is what I would usually call a season 1 episode. It only really works early on in a show because it's kind of silly and it's kind of dumb and it kind of shows simplicity, but it's not bad. It's just, okay, here's an early season episode. Here you go, right? It's only a problem when this kind of episode comes out in like season 3 or 8 or 97. That's when we have a little bit of a problem. Anywho. Oh, I think I agree, Sabacom, but let's go ahead and move forward. So the first thing we see is we see an appropriately timed tumbleweed kind of going by, and it's like, okay. And then Spike realizes that maybe it's because there's a holiday. Maybe it's because of my breath. Maybe it's zombies? I love that escalation. I have to admit, that actually made me laugh even this time rewatching that. It was zombies? Not likely. It's not likely. So it's possible? You know what's funny is, to my knowledge, they never do undead in this show. And they probably shouldn't, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, yes, zombies are mentioned in folklore and stories. That actually happens several times. But I don't think zombies are a real thing in the setting, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways. And then, of course, then leads to Pinky being like, zombie ponies? No! I have to say real quick, I love Pinkie Pie's whisper yell. There's a really specific trick to yelling and whispering at the same time. It's when you're, hey. It actually hurts my throat. I can't do it very often, so I'm going to stop right there. But yeah, I like that. So this is actually Apple Bloom's first real episode. Did you catch that? In fact, I believe she has actually done this only twice. This is her second episode total, if I'm not mistaken. She had a brief cameo in the intro in the first episode, and then it's here. What I find doubly interesting about that is her character arc is completely different than basically everything after this. Now, I'm okay with that, but I find myself wondering if her wanting to be taken seriously was going to be a thing they wanted to carry forward. It is worth noting they do that in a future episode. I don't remember the name of it, but it's the one where she is allowed to stay at home by herself, and that's a big deal. You remember that one? And then Applejack just completely wigs out on the overprotectiveness. You know the one I'm talking about? But yeah, I have to say something. So, okay, Weoud's mentions, I notice how the 6 gravitate together. There definitely is a little bit of sand mentality going on here. But I have to admit, this episode, the only thing I don't like about it is a lot of the characters are kind of out of character. Do you see how terrified Applejack is? And how judgmental everyone is? Now let's go ahead and be real for a second. This is the 4th time I've been real today. Prejudice let's just be, I know I'm going to get absolutely slammed for saying this, but prejudice is not inherently in and of itself a bad thing. Because prejudice means to prejudge, okay? It's when prejudice is taken too far, or worse, when prejudice, the prejudgment is as far as you go. That's when it becomes a bad thing. So, for example, if I were to look at someone and be like, oh my God, and, judge them by the book of the cover kind of a thing, and then I just assume that initial judgment is true forever, that's the problem. If I presume that out of the gate and never change my mind on it, or don't, just kind of keep reinforcing that initial judgment, that leads to biases, right? That leads to actual issues. Now, Shikor says, maybe they were just, weren't acting rationally because of the hearsay and the fear. And in the interests of fairness, we have seen before that Ponyville is really, really innocent. It's one of the things I like about Ponyville, actually. So, I kind of get it. But I do think they went too far here because they really wanted to have the message of the episode. And they wanted it so badly. There's literally a part, and check this out. I can't believe this. Right at the beginning of the episode, there's this bit where Spike shows a book to Twilight Princess, or Twilight Sparkle. I keep screwing up her name. To Twilight. Shows a book to Twilight, and Twilight looks at the cover of the book and says, oh, that's not for me. That's how on the nose this episode is. It's a bit much. And no, I don't know how many unicorns are in Ponyville, Savicon. Anywho, so they're all super scared, and Apple Bloom's like, screw this. I do have one thing I actually like. I do like the fact that they're like, oh my God, it's a zebra. What's a zebra? I know that sounds strange, but I kind of like the idea that they just aren't familiar with that many different varieties of species. At least not yet. Later on, as they start to interact with the changelings and the dragons and the yaks and God knows what else, I like the idea that they would slowly expand their exposure to other sentient sapient species. But they are so isolated, they don't even know what a zebra is. I agree with that, Ethel. Anyways, so, oh my God. I do... By the way, what the heck is with Rarity? Oh, God. She was born with those ghastly stripes. I like zebra stripes. What the hell? Anyway, sorry. I also have to admit, Spike was the source of my second laugh in this episode. There's this bit where they're like, you don't understand. She's horribly terrifying. And then there's like a storm crash sound effect, but it's actually just a bunch of pots and pans because he's messing around in the kitchen. That got a grin out of me, I'll admit it. Yeah, exactly, Shikor. She's different. She must be a zombie. Anyways. I also have to admit, see, one of the things that would help this episode for me, there's this bit where Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, and Rainbow Dash are all, Twilight's like, what does she actually do? She comes into town. She goes by the store. She eats hay. And it's like, I would have liked it better if they had a little bit of self-realization about what they were saying there. Just a little. Like, as a, that thing where you say it out loud and now it's like, oh, hang on, now that I'm saying it, I can kind of hear it. That kind of a thing. Whatever. Okay. So another thing I do actually like about this episode. Oh yeah, she eats the evilly. So Evertree Forest. I do actually like how they do this. If I'm not mistaken, though, this is the end of this particular story arc. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But they mention that this is another bit of that wonderful world building this show does. They mention the Evertree Forest, or Everfree Forest, I'm not actually sure which one it is, has, I wrote it down. The plants grow, the animals care for themselves, and the clouds move all on their own. That's actually some really cool world building that, if I'm not mistaken, they will never touch on ever again. The idea of there being a section of the terrain that is not reliant on constant magical maintenance in order to function as a biome. We've already actually talked about how they exist within, a controlled society as far as literal terrain, literal environment. They have to make rain. They have to literally craft rain in order to make it, in order to maintain the biome. And I'm with that. I actually think that's a cool idea. But near as I can tell, I'm being told it's retconned later. Near as I can tell, this whole thing with the Everfree forest being a normal forest by our standards is something that is just going to be completely abandoned going forward, which is a shame because it's a cool concept and, as Shikor points out, different, therefore scary. Anyways, let's see. Looking at my notes here. Oh yes. So I've mentioned a few things I like and a few things I dislike about this episode. Can I mention something I hate about this episode? I have Dr. Wily music playing in my head. This is. Here, you can hear it too. Here, check it out. See? No, it's Pinky's song. Something about, so I don't like it. First of all, let's just start there. It's not a catchy tune. Second of all, though, she repeats it like 4 times throughout the course of the episode. And third of all, it gets stuck in my head really badly, and I hate that. Like, it's not the worst song Pinky will ever sing. You know the one I'm talking about, if you've seen this show. But it's still there, and it's just, oh, come on! It's a work in process. Deliberately annoying is still annoying. I agree. Actually, funnily enough, I do have a note further down in my notes here that the song kind of works when Flutterguy sings it. So I'll actually give you that. Speaking of which, you notice the Flutterguy voice actor is the same gentleman who played the dragon back in the previous episode. In a big tasty stew. And Flutterguy is continuity too. That'll come up in the future too. Anyways, so, fear, prejudice, oh my god, what do we do? There's this nice little bit, and again, a little bit of continuity here, where Twilight is like, God, curses aren't real. Curses are different than magic. And I actually kind of like the overall presentation of that. After all, remember, we've already had the Trixie episode, where we've had difference between magic and magic, right? So I do like that they continue to showcase that variance there. It's kind of necessary in any setting where literal magic is a problem, is a thing. It's a problem you have to address as a writer. So I'm glad that they do kind of re-emphasize that point. So here's the note. This is when she judges the book by its cover. Literally. No, literally. Literally. Also, am I the only person who noticed that when Spike was coming up with a nickname for everyone, he called Rainbow Crash? I'm actually curious about that. I've talked many times about the very nature of what it's like to construct a show by backloading storytelling rather than front-loading. And this is a big backloaded storytelling show. I've said that several times. I actually find myself wondering if this one random mention by Spike is what led to the eventual Rainbow Crash story arc that would happen in season 3 or 4. I forget, it's a while from now. But anywho. So, Rarity, hair, pink, Rainbow Crash. Why doesn't Rainbow just walk? That's bothered me every time I've watched that. Crash, walk! Just stop flying! What? I mean, that's fair, Shikor. Shikor says maybe her wings just go off on their own. That's valid. It's valid. That might be a thing. Although you'd think they'd have a solution for that too, right? In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in season 2, they will literally bind Rambo's wings. And I think they do that this season too for the fall race. You know the one I'm talking about? Between her and Applejack? Anyways, whatever. Minor point. Early season episode. So Flutterguy does her version of the song. Now, the message of the episode is really, really, really obvious. It's so obvious, it is literal. Because she literally judges a book by its cover. I do like the second message of the show, if I might be so bold, which is the variance between simple facts and complex facts. I've talked about this concept many, many, many times. You can look at something, look at a surface issue, and judge and deduce things from it. But that is a simplistic outcome of simplistic facts. That should be, in my opinion, that should be treated as an initial point, a starting point, not a conclusion. In this episode, they look at the simplistic facts, in Twilight in particular, specifically is like, okay, she's got creepy masks and a cauldron, and we're obviously we have these curses, therefore she's evil. Simplistic conclusion. But that shouldn't actually be a conclusion, is my point. Because when she finds out the complex facts, it's like, oh, right, I'm stupid. In interest and deference, Twilight does seem, and credit to the actress, Tara Strong, she does seem legitimately chastised and embarrassed by how much she has been swept up in everything. So, a couple more little tiny tidbits, really quick here. Oh, I know, I felt so bad for Zecora, too. They just trash her house. They never show this. I hope they actually do fix her house. Right? Like, after be off camera, like, here, let's fix this up. Anyways, so a couple little notes. First of all, I like Zecora's rhyming scheme. They'll really go full tilt with this in future episodes, but I do actually like the idea of... I can't even do it on the fly. Da 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 da. You know, that thing, the measure, the rhyme meter that she speaks in. That's good, and I think I like that. I also don't like so TV doesn't actually do this all that often. Even more normal TV shows don't do this all that often. It's called the commercial break repeat. I'm actually really weirded out they did it in this episode. Now, if you were watching it like I was, just one shot episode, you probably noticed it immediately because it's much more apparent when the commercial breaks are edited out. Oh no, apple bloom soup! Cut to break. Oh no, apple bloom soup! That bit. You remember that? It is, I just wanted to comment on that, because that is very rare for television to do that. And usually they do that when it's either poorly written drivel, just to be as blunt about that as I can, or when they are trying to flesh out an episode longer than it is, and one of the filler ideas they have is literally to repeat lines and repeat scenes in order to add in another minute or so of dialogue. And if you think about it, that does so at the it's basically free for a cartoon show because they don't really have to re-record anything. It's literally just the same line again. I just wanted to comment on that because I don't even think MLP will ever do that again. If there is, I can't think of an example of it. It's just weird. Anyways, moving on. So then they show off the spa. It is rare now, Shikor. Shikor asks, is it so rare? It absolutely was very common back in the 80s and 70s with regards to cartoon shows, which is part of the problem. And indeed is done so for the exact same reasons I just mentioned. If you ever watch Rescue Rangers, any of the old Hanna-Barbera stuff, they used to do that thing constantly. Like, it was the norm. Anyways, they show the spa. Okay. There are He-Man. Yep, He-Man did that too. There are quite a few episodes that center around the spa in this show. And can I go ahead and get a guilty admission out of the way here? I would love to spend some time in that spa. Oh my god. Just relaxing and being pampered for a bit and just, Is that just me? It's okay. You can tell me if it's just me. Do I have a bath? Not really. I have a shower. I've actually never been to a spa either, so this is kind of a fantasy thing rather than a literal thing. I've never actually been to a spa. I have had a massage, although it was only as part of training. Basically, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, I've actually been professionally trained as a masseuse. I used to be licensed, this is forever ago. And to this day, I still give damn good massages. Not that I can prove that to you, unless you want to teleport here. But as part of the training, I had to be massaged upon so I could understand what was happening and why. So I could get the feelings from my end and then understand what I'll be doing to the person on the table, right? On the bench. So that's it. That's as close as I've ever come to actually being in a spa, is getting a massage from a trainer. Anyways. Oh, by the way, this is also the first showcasing of Lotus. She's the spa woman. You know, the woman with the vaguely Norwegian accent. I don't even know what to call that accent, actually. But you know what I'm talking about. This is the first time she shows up. She'll be a recurring character later, too, in basically all the Spa episodes. So go figure. So, then we get to the end of the episode. It's Lotus. I know because it said so in the credits. Okay, so I have to call Lore Mum here. This is good timing because I'm wrapping up this Streaminations. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to say my last point, then we're going to cut off the recording. And then I'm going to leave the stream going. And I know that's a strange choice, but it'll serve as a timer. Because I don't want to go for half an hour and then not be able to watch the episode, right? I'll be talking to my mom, telling her happy birthday. So I'm going to leave the stream going while I'm talking to her. I'll mute it, of course. And then I'll tell you when we start the next half-hour timer for the second episode. Sound cool? It's kind of a unique situation because it's her birthday. Last thing I wanted to comment on was the fact that the ending was just kind of weird. Like, anyone else notice that? It wasn't the wah-wah, but it was the ha-ha-ha end on the laugh track sitcom thing. Should we count that for the wah-wah counter that we've been going through? Or should we make like a separate ha-ha-ha-ha counter? What do you guys think? Because I've been keeping track of this because it amuses me. Yeah, the wah-wah counter is the typical sitcom ending. That's the idea. It's either for the, it's for Spike, or, this one it was Fluttershy. She was like, yes, da. We'll see you around, Savicum. Hope to see you for the next one. I think we'll count it. It does make sense, but it is still a wah-wah ending. And again, I'm just idly curious how many of these there will be. Because by memory, they stopped doing them like after season 1 and season 2. And that's what I'm curious about. I like facts. I like tangible numbers, and that's why I'm keeping track of it. So anyways, let's go ahead and chop off the local recording.